much? Looking for you very much.
Maybe. As long as they ain't flooded.
This week's I put this in bid.
I haven't seen them. I don't know.
Mark and the mayor coming, probably. The mayor,
Yeah.
I just saw him, I don't know if he's gonna be here. I think probably.
I have to do it. Bigger.
About time. When you started out.
Yeah, we can get started that, and I don't know if he's gonna make this one, I know he'll be here.
I understand.
At 6.
They do it.
Mayor?
He's still looking at me. What was the last one you heard?
I think we're ready to go, Mike.
All right, y'all, let's go ahead and get started. Chris, you call the roll for us?
Jonathan Gibbert.
Here.
Ed Evans.
Here.
Sean Shannon. Here. Alderman Faulkner. Here. We don't have no minutes and nothing in the last few minutes. We're getting behind on a lot of things, Mark, so if you can start and catch us up.
I've got 2 things that I wanted to talk to you about today. First of all, catch you up on the meeting that the 3 water systems in Marshall County had with TDEC last week. I felt like it was a very positive conversation we had. The ultimate question that was asked basically was how much water can Lewisburg's plant pull out of the river? Because there's never been an actual permit or letter or anything written that says this is what their limit is. So, based on whether that number is their plant capacity, which is 4 million, of course, some number higher than that would largely determine how we all could or would move forward. There was quite a bit of talk about if that capacity, if that limit was higher than 4 million, and the number that was kicked out there was 6, that we could all 3 go in together in some way, shape, form, or fashion to start planning to build a new plant on the river, mainly to serve the north side of the county. So, like I said, that was a positive conversation, but a lot of questions have to be answered before all of us can.
Is that including Columbia, or is that just Lewisburg and Marshall County?
That's just the Marshall County plants. From what I gathered, the meeting that was held in Murray County didn't yield as promising results as what we had all hoped. I think they're willing to sell us water. I think a few people are willing to sell us water, they're just not willing to guarantee how much or for how long, which, kind of puts us back at square one.
That's exactly where we're at now, no guarantee.
Exactly.
But this plant here, if we built one here, it would treat the water here instead of having to send it all the way to Lewisburg and then send it all the way back. Is that right?
That's correct. If a plant were built here on the river, overall, all of us would have a much more efficient system. Just simply for that main reason is it doesn't have to travel 20 miles down the road, be treated and then be redistributed all over the county. And of course, a lot of ideas were kicked out, but that would be one of the main goals is to capture that added efficiency. But there were no cost estimates thrown out there that I heard. So, like I say, that's in the initial stages, but I felt really good about where the conversation was going with the 3 systems and with the state. The other thing I wanted to bring up, we had talked about it a couple of months ago, our cutoff policy and our policy on leaks and/or using water when we fill a pool or fill a tank or something like that, and not charging sewer. I'd like to propose that we look at getting Todd to, or Chris and I, or Todd, or some combination of the three can look at our current policies and get a proposal in y'all's hands that, that we can look at over this month and maybe make a recommendation next month. I know we've talked about, in particular, the leak policy at one time, and we never did really come to a conclusion on a cap. I think we were all in agreement on, how to handle the leaks, pay for the water, not have the adjustment off the sewer. But I don't think we ever came to an agreement or a solid recommendation on where we were going to potentially cap that number if we were going to. So I'll try to have something written down that we can look at this month as far as those policies go. Mayor, you got anything you want to add to that?
I don't know how many complaints y'all had about water increase, if you had any.
Yeah.
I've had 3 or 4, but the ones that it was talking to was older. One of them was the older person that my water bill's going up like that. And I said, no, your water bill probably goes down. And they were satisfied with that, because I think that's what, if I read it right now, that's what it's going to be, losing, using less than $1,000. The other one is a business in town that uses about 1,000 gallons or what a month, except for 4 months a year when it's filling up tanks or spraying on the ground. And that falls back into what we were talking about, I think, that we need to really look at that. I hate for his to have to pay sewer on the water that he's going to spread on the ground. He's not the only one. Co-op does the same thing up here. But we need to look at that real hard. I hate to punish him for sewer. He don't mind paying for the water, but he don't want to have to pay for the sewer, if you get what I'm saying. If he's going to spread it on the ground, that makes sense to me. The other thing, I think we need to start looking at the sewer policy that we've got in here in town. I noticed that I'll beat on it. We need to start looking at the policy we've got on the sewer. I'm satisfied that a lot of you sitting in here wasn't living in Chapel Hill when that sewer first came in. It was Adams and John. Dan here probably was. Father Gary probably was. He lived with his mom and daddy. But we need to, Mr. Gilbert too, but that's not what the policy on the sewer thing was. We're going to take a long look at that on the sewer policy. We got some people that's replacing pumps pretty regular, and when it first voted in up here by the citizen of Chapel Hill to deal with the sewer, it was not going to be any cost to them from the clean out on. Now we got people to replace the tanks, we got people doing this and doing that, having a septic tank pumped out pretty regular, and we need to look at those people. Now I'm talking about our older one who lives up on Evanston Street. I think we replaced hers 3 or 4 times here pretty quick. Farm says it's pretty quick. They can replace, I don't know how many times, 4 or 5 times? Maybe the sewer pump. And that's not, I know that when it was first voted in on the sewer ordinance, I was at the meeting. And the people that's on the board then, the mayor and everybody included, was sitting in there. They never read it. They just signed it, passed it. A few years later, somebody caught it. That was on the board. I mean, that was the city manager, or caught it. It flew. Threw all the costs back on the homeowner, because that's what the ordinance read. They never did change it. I think we really need to look at that. I know it's gonna be a cost to the city. I guarantee it's gonna be a cost to the city. But we need to look at it, because it's not right. That's the way it was voted in.
Do you have that, Mark, or exactly what it does say and what it is?
I do.
Is that something we could get and look over?
It is, basically right now it says that the city is responsible, up to the
Tap.
up to the tap, you know, out on the main, similar to what the, you know, water is at the meter. And I think what the mayor's want to look at is the city being responsible all the way back to, and including the tank
The tank.
and any pump associated with the tank. There's some, the positives that I can think of that go with that is that's where a lot of our inflow and infiltration comes in, as far as rainwater, which, you know, diminishes the capacity of our system and you know, really creates problems for us during rain events. It would allow us to start a program to go on to people's property where their tank is and start to rehab some of these tanks that are leaking a lot, and you know, allow us to take care of some of these problems. Because right now, all we can tell somebody is I can't, you know, legally come on your property and help you fix your problem. I think it would benefit us in a couple of ways. Like the mayor mentioned, there will be a cost to it, but we can figure out how to make that work, I believe. And I do believe that over time, that could help us gain back capacity in our collection system, because like I say, these old tanks is one of the main points of infiltration into our system.
Leads.
Yes.
It is, yeah.
Lids, cracks, you know, some of these old plastic things collapse.
I have a customer of mine right now that just had theirs pumped, said they had to get it pumped every year. Got it pumped and they found it had a crack. All this rainwater was filling it up. They're getting ready to have to swap it out right now.
Yeah, I think there would definitely be some benefits on both sides if we could find a way to make that work.
Would we get into replacing the black bubble tanks altogether?
I think it would probably, you know, be beneficial to us to start a program if we do that, where we, you know, find some of the older stuff, some of the more dilapidated stuff, and start to systematically replace it over time. You know, between that and manholes, I don't think it would take long for us to start realizing, you know, a pretty good difference. One thing that was brought up before our meeting started was the new sewer project that we've been trying to get going for a long time. Like I say, the start date was officially February the 1st, but the way I understand it, this company that has a bid on that project is, you know, behind like a lot are because of all the weather that we've had. And I know they had a project or two going, you know, when they were trying to get here. So I anticipate that they start mobilizing equipment any day, but I don't know exactly when that day is. But you know, that also would help us solve some problems that we've been having on the south side with some businesses and some of their pumps on that south end. They're really having to fight that force main right now with their individual pumps.
Where does this project go to? I mean, how far is it?
basically, from Morningside to the wastewater treatment plant, we did take out a portion of it because the bids coming in high, we'll get the same effect that we were going to. Which is basically the town will be isolated into a new force main coming from Morningside. And none of that on the south side, starting at the schools, will all those places, the school and south, will no longer be on that 6-inch force main. That 6-inch force main is trying to do far more than what it was ever designed to do. It was designed to be a standalone force main coming from Morningside lift station to the plant. And, you know, over time it's had 2 schools, a subdivision, and all those businesses that are pumping directly into it and fighting that Morningside lift station at the same time.
How did we hold up during this last rain we had, this storm flood?
As far as
The drainage and,
as far as the sewer system goes, it total washout.
total washout.
Everything that we had was overflowing, including the lagoons at the wastewater treatment plant.
And one time we had somebody come out and give us some estimates, and we had some ideas we was gonna do behind the diner there, where Holden was gonna open that up, put a lot better upgraded pump. I know we had a lot of our people volunteered to go out there and work on it, and they've done real good to get what they could get. But there still is a better system that we're supposed to be able to work on and get. Is that coming?
They're actually going to give a presentation on their findings at tonight's meeting, after this meeting.
Because I still think there's something there, and there, I guess the drainage on the underpass still was stopped up.
No, that was held back by groundwater.
Okay, that's fine.
And we checked that drain on a couple of different occasions, and it was clear.
It was clear.
It just is not going to go anywhere until the groundwater makes room for it. That is tied directly into.
When it gets up, it backs up, it can't go nowhere.
It surcharges from the river into every
Stream.
cave and crevice and stream trying to get to it. As far as the sewer system goes, what we're going to do for our stormwater, will probably have some effect on it, but there's still, when it rains like that, a lot of that water is going to get into the sewer system. We weren't alone in having things overflow that week. From what I understand, most of Tennessee had the same issue. Hopefully, we did have 2 pumps burn up during the flood, and hopefully we'll be getting some reimbursement on from FEMA on a couple of them. That one pump that burned up was a $30,000 pump, so I'm hoping that we get some help with that.
Is there an opportunity to buy a better one or a bigger one? Or is that a big-
That's in at Morningside lift station.
Yeah.
It'll get replaced. But the little manual, or not manual, but the mobile pump that we have working behind the diner, it also took some damage. We're gonna have to rebuild it, or get a new one there. That one that's running right now is rental. And that's another thing that we'll be shooting for reimbursement on is, you know, the cost of those rentals and any overtime associated with any of the flood and things of that nature.
How was hiring Joseph helped our staff?
It's helped more than I can even say. You know, we were we kept backlogging things. As you know, we still have to backlog some things from time to time, but we've been picking them off a little at a time, but we just, kept building and building and building and setting on the list of things to do. We were, able to take care of the daily demand for the most part, but all these projects that we've been wanting to do, some meter change out, some different things, they were just, waiting to get the personnel to be able to do it. So he's been extremely beneficial, a great employee.
Chris, you got anything we missing on our note in December? You don't know of anything we're missing out we need to talk about? Besides this, Mark?
Just discussion.
I just can't remember everything.
That's all the new stuff that I wanted to bring to you guys. Like I say, I'll have some revised policies for y'all to look over. Try to get those out to you in the next couple of weeks, so you have a couple of weeks to look at them.
Now, as far as the plan going into Columbia coming out to 99, is that kind of being put off for now? Or is that no longer?
I would have to confirm this with the county, but I think that they're probably looking to spend their money in other places. After that meeting. I don't think that they feel like they can get enough bang for their buck, in the short term, with that project. We were hoping for, like I say, maybe a couple hundred gallons a minute,
And we was gonna tie in the 99 and put a bigger line in.
right.
So as of right now, that's gonna be probably as right now out of
As
place.
of right now, they can't guarantee us
Nothing.
that much water. They can't guarantee us enough water to go out there and spend a couple $1 million to get there.
Now, Lewisburg's got a lot of upgrade to do too, though, to get more. Fair pumps, is that right?
Lewisburg can produce all that plant is designed to produce. The bigger issue with getting it up here is the distribution system.
Has the county given you an update on the line from Lewisburg?
That was one of the things that was discussed in that meeting the other night. That is moving forward. And the town of Chapel Hill has agreed to participate, in the cost of that project, because that will benefit us greatly as well. That would allow them to move all the water that we would ever need from Lewisburg to Chapel Hill. Now we're just back to, the original problem of source and how much water everybody needs. But as far as moving water, that would solve most of our problems up here in the north end.
But they're still a little piece from doing that, right?
They're probably getting close to, that it doesn't take long to design, it doesn't take long to put the funding together. The hardest part of that project will probably be the easement acquisition, because it's got to run along a new path. It can't run along exactly the same path as the old line, so that's going to be the toughest part of that one, and possibly could run into some environmental clearance that holds it up. But outside of easement acquisition and some regulatory clearance, there's really nothing holding that up. The county is also either has or will went ahead and started the application process for a new intake into the river. I'm not sure where they're at in that process.
Did they get an answer on the 4 to 6 million on the other end?
If they have, I haven't heard it, Brian. I was going to be impressed if they got it the next day, but to my knowledge, there's no answer.
don't think the city of Lewisburg can make 6,000 gallons a day.
That
That's
plant,
put on 24 hours a day. I don't
yeah,
think
that plant's designed for 4 million gallons a day. If we could pull 6, it would require, an additional plant or an addition to their plant, being constructed.
Are we buying from them right now?
Currently, no. We've got all the water in our well that we can stand right now.
Filled up then. I hope it lasts a while.
Let me ask a question. How much water do we produce? Would you say we produce half as much as we need, or a third?
We produce somewhere in the vicinity of an average of a couple 100,000 gallons a day.
And we need how much?
Depends on how much growth we experience and how much capacity we can gain back through leak detection. We, gain back some of that capacity through finding some leaks but in a system this size, there's not a whole lot of capacity to gain back. Even if you gain a lot of it back, it doesn't, amount to a home run. But like I say, Mr. Adams, it just depends on the growth. We have enough to supply what's here right now on an average day. Anything beyond what we have right now, we have to start looking at buying water from Marshall County. And already in the summertime, we know that, when it gets dry in the summertime, we're already having to supplement as our well gets lower. So
We ain't talked about it lately, Mark, but we still have plans to add another tank or update one of our tanks?
that's a long-range plan.
It's not that short.
No, it's, I think it's probably, projected to be out there, 3 to 5 year range, and we need to start looking at that. But that's dictated by regulation as well. The state mandates that we have enough storage capacity, 24-hour storage. So if we're producing 200 a day, we have to have at least 200 a day storage. And right now we have 3. But once again, if we start experiencing some of this growth like is potentially going to happen, it wouldn't take long to hit that and go beyond it.
So we're good for now.
Yes, today we're good.
Mark, one of the things you talked about as far as the future 3 to 5 years with the increased storage, I don't know if that's just, is that elevated or is that just a tank? And then the other thing is you talked about elevating purchasing, buying into a new water plant. Are those items included in capital improvements plans that are driving these rate increases right now?
The tank is, the tank is in there. Buying into a new plant, no, because that plant is, and what our what our participation in that would be is yet to be determined. So I think there's about $3.5 million worth of water and sewer improvements that we know we're going to have to do over the next 3 to 5 to 7 years that are included in this rate structure. And we've got some copies of that MTAS study here if anybody wants to take one of those home.
And what does that show?
It shows basically the calculations behind what MTAS did to come up with these recommendations.
For our town?
Yes.
And I'm sorry we did come late, but does this have anything to do with all the building that's going on That's why all of this is happening now? And because my understanding was that this needed to be done a while ago. And incrementally and keeping up with. So is this now in a push, especially because of all these new buildings?
Y'all want me to take that?
Well, what the MTS people told us was our increase in building
Yeah.
these last few years, they've taken that into account. And I believe the word they used, they said if we didn't have, they planned on so much increase growth. And I believe the words the MTS people said, if we didn't have the amount of growth that we have, the increase would have been more, would have been astronomical.
But because of all the building and the people coming
So
in,
actually the growth, from what the MTS people said, is helping us.
they're gonna,
It's
spread over.
The increase would have been higher if we didn't have this much growth.
Okay, what is this MT thing you're talking about?
That's the Municipal Technical Advisory Service. They're actually a division of the University of Tennessee.
Okay,
All that they do is help cities with different problems and different functions. I would add that it's a combination of things. I can't point to just one thing that makes this where we have to do this now. It's a combination of the upcoming growth and a combination of infrastructure that and maintenance that we're going to have to do. Some of it regardless of whether we grow or not. And it's a combination of the rates being steady for such a long period of time. So I think it's really a combination of many factors is why it's coming now and in this amount. And it was triggered by the state. Without getting too technical, there's a
We want to get technical.
that's okay.
It triggers, your audit will trigger the comptroller's office to come in and say, hey, you need to do something. And that's when you lose, it's when you have a decrease in net assets for 2 consecutive years. So that triggers the need to do something because you get, called to the state water board. Now, we took the path of going ahead and knowing that was coming, calling in MTAS,
Okay.
having them do this study, and then proposing these rates to the board to try to avoid that process with the state being involved in it.
So that was a preemptive step on your part to just get things moving, or not having them come out and talk to you?
Well, I mean, of course, they audit us every year. We speak to them, but they won't come in and make suggestions to what we do if we go through the process of doing it ourselves. And the other thing that it did is it gave us a good independent study of what our true needs may be. But there was 3 or 4 things I would say that triggered this to happen now.
What's your priority with this now? What comes first? Putting bigger pipes, or what's the progression that you're going for first, and then what's the priority right off the bat? Get more money, or fix the pipes, or something? We have a lot of flooding places around here, and so what's going to help with that too?
That's something that we'll address at this upcoming meeting. But in my opinion, it all starts with a source. We have to, before we can distribute the water anywhere, we have to have it to distribute and be able to treat it. We have limitations as far as how much we can pull out of our well. We have limitations as far as how much we can treat in our little plant. And we also have limitations as far as how much Marshall County can push to us to buy. So we're working on, in conjunction with Marshall County, a plan to upgrade the distribution system coming from Lewisburg into the north end of the county to try to eliminate the hydraulic issue. Then we will have to somehow eliminate or try to find additional source. We'll have to pull some more out of the river or pull some more out of the well, build a reservoir. We'll have to do something to address how much water we have available, to treat.
That's a big,
And one of the biggest, one of the things that we've always known that we were facing is economies of scale. We've only got 750 customers to try to spread the cost over whatever we do.
really,
That's one of the biggest challenges for us. If we had 5,000 customers, we wouldn't be looking at near as much of an increase to do $3 million worth of work. But we're in a very inefficient phase of our business cycle.
how is it that there's only 750 customers? I mean, there are more than that in Chapel Hill, so.
Just the city limits is.
This is the households. This
Oh.
is each household. Our population is larger than that, but the number of households we have, it's only 750.
Oh, boy.
What I'd like to know, what do you intend to do with the existing system that's here now?
I would anticipate that it will stay operating for the
Oh, really?
foreseeable future. Yes, sir.
Oh, wow, and you want us to pay for new residents to move in here? No, you're gonna force us to pay.
I don't have any answer for that.
Because a minute ago you said you would give us your opinion, but we ain't here to hear facts. It don't seem like anybody's got concern about getting hold of the federal government for grants. It's very easy to do.
Yeah, have you guys
We
gone
go to
through-
the federal government pretty regular asking for grants. That and the state,
They're
regular,
available for other cities.
sir.
They're available to other cities.
We apply for them, but our 750 customers we got is not pushing us up that limit.
But there are going to be 225 homes out here and townhomes, and there are new buildings being built all around here.
Right.
So what's been done? Anything?
Yeah, we furnish them water, furnish them sewer.
I'm talking about the federal money. It's
The federal money, we applied for grants for it. We got a grant on the sewer line that is going down to the park now.
When was the last time?
The
When
project,
was the last time you applied for that money?
the project that's about to start, we got 362,000, I think, to go toward this sewer project.
But
It's-
nothing for the existing system to be replaced.
That's for the existing system to be upgraded.
Do you all have any blueprints on that system?
Yes. But that's a community development block grant, and we'll have to finish this project before we can even apply for the next one.
I think it's also important for people to understand, because I was a city manager, that when you get grants, there are requirements attached to it. And those requirements normally require you to increase your rates to pay for a certain element of that. They don't come just free, gratis, and pay for everything. They only pay for a portion, and they expect you to increase your prices to pay for another portion.
Well, there's a city called Brunswick that's got a smaller community than this, that had plenty of federal money given to them,
Where is that?
East Coast.
Oh.
I think somebody's lacking in doing their job here.
Well, that's why I was wondering what the priority, I mean, there are a lot of things that have to be addressed. But what are you going to tackle first, energetically, to get, I mean, you have to have one goal. You can't have, you can't go to California, Chicago, and Pennsylvania. You have to just go to Chicago,
For the water and sewer.
Yeah.
For the sewer, it's this project that is about to start that we were just talking about that's tied to that grant. And what it will do is replace the force main that goes from Morningside to the wastewater treatment plant. and it will more than double the capacity of our collection system, just based on the fact that it will remove the town from trying to go through that 6-inch force main that it's been going through since the inception of the operation. Over time, we've had 2 schools and several businesses and a subdivision that's been plugged into that 6-inch force main, and it's just trying to do way more than it was ever designed to do.
Yeah.
But that still doesn't eliminate the capacity issue at the wastewater treatment plant, because if we can move it there, then we have to treat it. And the first step beyond that would be trying to increase our permit limits to put treated wastewater into the Duck River. Right now we're limited to 170,000 gallons a day.
From the Duck River? Or?
That's what we're putting back into the Duck River that goes through our wastewater treatment plant.
Okay.
And then, without increasing those limitations, there's really no moving forward before that. So that would be our primary focus would be permitting.
Okay. So how do you do that? What's the step you have to take for that?
That will have to go through TDEC, the Department of Environment and Conservation.
Yeah.
It'll have to be stamped on probably by TVA and possibly the Army Corps of Engineers.
Okay.
So that's not a overnight process.
No, but do you have a committee that's going to be centered on that to get that ball rolling and keep on touch, keeping on top of it?
We'll put that in the hands of engineers.
Oh, okay. We don't have any engineers in our,
No.
okay. So then you just have to give it to them and hope they do something, or that it doesn't sit?
No, I mean, they will, but that will be a lengthy process.
Like what, months?
Months to
Years?
beyond a year.
Other years.
Is private is the new company?
Yes.
So do you all take bids and just choose when you like?
We'll send out RFPs for engineering services.
What does that mean? What's that?
Request for proposals.
Oh.
It being a professional service that's a little bit different procurement rules than say for a piece of equipment, but you still send out an RFP.
So while that's going on, what's the next thing we could start working on? That's taking years, and so what else can we do? Then what's the next thing we have to be addressing? Because you can't just wait for that. You have to have something in the background ready to go, so when that happens, you can move. So what's the next thing?
On the water side, once again, it would be that the transmission line that comes from Lewisburg up in the north end of the county.
Okay.
Because right now our major limitation on being able to purchase more water is the hydraulic limitations of the county's system.
Okay.
They have trouble pushing enough water through their system to the north end of the county where all the growth is.
Okay.
So when we want to buy water, we have to we try to give them some a few days notice so that they can get all their tanks full and be ready for us to pull a little from them. But that transmission line is the first thing. And that also will have to go through some environmental hurdles. It'll have to cross creeks and cross the river, and those things. Those environmental hurdles will take time. That's called a NEPA process, and that can take a long
You have to
time.
work with Lewisburg too to get some hydraulics or something to push water?
Lewisburg would ultimately be selling the county water, which then pushed the water up here and sold to us.
Okay, so while that thing's going and this thing's going with the hydraulics, what's the next thing to get started that we could, eventually there's going to be something we could get rolling pretty quick so that once number one happens, and then number two happens, and then what's the third thing?
Yeah, this won't be a fast process. You know, we're talking years to do the things that we've just talked about.
So what in the meantime is this increase helping?
This increase right now, like I say, was triggered by the comptroller's office and our audits where we've lost net assets 2 consecutive years.
We're projecting it's $300,000 loss this year.
Correct.
$200,000 loss last year. So you got to make up the revenue right now before you can start new projects.
Wow.
Correct, and that's not all cash. That's about $250,000 in depreciation. But either way, it's a loss that you have to cover.
Will this increase do that, or is it gonna take years to, are we gonna break even next year? Well, I understand, but
If all the variables that went into the projections are true,
yeah,
then yes.
then yes, what?
Then yes, it will cover all the things that we've talked about.
And so next year we won't be in a deficit the way we are now?
That's correct.
It's projected at $50,000 asset or revenue positive
Oh,
for the
really?
next 4 to 5 years.
Oh, hallelujah, okay. then.
Mark, let me understand this right, though. Even if we're still are, they're gonna come back and inform us of this, and we're gonna have, they'll inform us that we're not, it's not enough, is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, if we continue to show a decrease in net assets,
They're gonna let us know.
then I mean, they'll still be with us. But, you know, if we do not, they will, you know, they won't have a dog in the hunting deal. But yes, those numbers I would say are conservative.
And how many years do you think it's been since we've increased here in Chapel Hill?
10, 12.
I have no idea.
That's the problem.
What's the problem?
That's what's got us.
Yeah, but the system's got a problem, Mom, too.
We've dropped the system, we didn't increase our water, we didn't increase and go with the time as we
Oh,
should have.
yeah.
We stayed at one price too long, that's
Yeah.
what's got us here to this day. It's not the people coming in, it's not the amount of houses coming in.
I would offer it's more than that, and I'll offer this to the mayor and the other folks. It's the fact we don't have a comprehensive plan. A comprehensive plan that will take into account the roads, the parks, the water, the wastewaters, everything, and do a projection of both your property taxes, your wastewater, and your water rates out for a 10-year period. Mark is a one-person, single-arm paper hanger. I've been in that position where you don't have a planning engineer on staff, you don't have this on staff, you don't have this on staff. This size of small town is a problem. He needs a comprehensive plan in order to guide him, so he's not having to field these kind of questions on a regular basis. And that comprehensive plan should be built by the citizens so they can have an understanding of what's going to be happening.
Yes, absolutely.
So how does that get started?
These new subdivisions, who pays for the water and sewer that's being put in those?
They do.
They do, okay. And another thing with your pumps, those pumps you were talking about, like the lady had that y'all were replacing, had to replace, sump pumps or whatever they're called. How come they're hooked to the electricity of those people's houses? They're
They
paying
are.
for electricity on that.
They are.
Yep. That's what I said, why? I mean, that's
But
costing
the
them.
ordinance said, I mean,
It's
that's
costing them, like you said, they're paying for the pumps when it goes out.
right.
They're paying for the electricity, and their water bill is the same price as everybody else's.
And the sewer bills.
And their sewer, correct.
That's what the sewer ordinance said. That's the reason I brought it up earlier when he looked at sewer ordinance. You know, there's several. I don't know how many pumps it is here in town. There's
Yeah,
a few.
there's
There's a few. And they're gradually going out. And that's what we're looking at. And we got tanks that are collapsing, like Mark said. We got tanks collapsing. We need to go back to what the city board, or what the citizen chapter voted on. Because we voted to go with the sewer thing. everybody signed a petition. Petition here, we'll go with it. But when the sewer ordinance come out, it did not read that way. Okay?
I remember when
And
the
nobody-
sewer popped up out of the ground.
Correct. But I'll say this, it's been a rough 5-6 months for me. I'm doing the best I can, but I'd rather for us try to handle it in-house than have the state come down here and cram it down our throats. And that's what's fixing to happen. If we don't do it, they're gonna do it. Because we can't keep going in a deficit every year.
No.
You understand what I'm saying? I know we've added some more housing, we're gonna add some more. But every time they put a sewer tap in or a water tap in, that's more money into the city's hand, give us more money to do what we think we gotta do with it.
Well, is this because it hasn't been kept, well, like you said, it hasn't been kept up?
Correct.
So now we've got this great big lump
Yes.
that we have to pay for, and it seems even more than
Right.
it should, because if it was broken down over all these
That's
past
the reason they
years.
come in there and told us that we was gonna have to raise it 45% of July, we went 30 now, 15 in July. 30% now, and 15 more in July.
So that would
If you
be-
add that other percentage to it, what did you come up with, John, 48.6% in July, that's what it would be.
By July,
That's the reason we're
it'd be
going
almost
to do it one
50%.
time, to get the state and impact state off
Right.
you know what I'm saying?
Jackie, how do you start getting a plan together so that you have something to follow? I mean, like, I don't know, this gentleman, Bob, suggested, what do you suggest, Bob?
Okay,
I
we
mean, how do you
can't
get a plan?
do anything, like apply for a grant for the sewer water till we get through the grant that we're personally holding now.
Well, not necessarily that, but what did you say, Bob, about having a plan to help?
So what I did as a city manager, we were going through the same kind of growth spurt. I had 1,400 homes, and when I left there 3 years later, we had platted out an additional 5,000 homes. So we had a significant growth. But what we did, and something I offered to the board 2 years ago, is put a moratorium on any new growth until you have a plan, and you go through a complete comprehensive plan of citizens working monthly and can be facilitated by MTAS to come in and actually help you create that comprehensive plan. And then you'll be able to, they'll do cost projections, revenue projections, growth projections, all those things will be included in there, and then you'll say, what do we want? What we did, for example, if you build a new subdivision, you spent $10,000 per acre that you used on a community park in your area, and you donated the land for it to go on. If you impacted the roads, and you need to put in acceleration or deceleration lanes or lights, the developer paid for those impacts. Now, we can't do a lot of that stuff right now because our charter doesn't allow us. During that moratorium, we should actually change our charter, submit it to state legislators so that we can pay for impact fees that will fund those kind of items. Then lift the moratorium and let the growth come in.
So right now, we sort of did it backwards, huh?
You did it the way 90% of all communities in the United States do it.
Okay.
You really do. You get caught up, and even the ones that we did, I still had to cover a 26% rate increase on wastewater in order to build a $4.5 million wastewater plant. So it's not, there's going to be pain, but you can lessen the pain if you can put more burden on the developers. They can't carry the entire burden. That's, by law, they can't do that. But they can carry a bigger burden than what we do right now. And if you want to see Franklin, Spring Hill, all those people, that's what we're talking about. They're going to keep coming down here because their profit margins are much greater down here than they are building in Franklin.
So it's too late to go to those builders now.
The current ones, yes.
Is this city incorporated?
Are we incorporated?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, how did that sound, what Bob was suggesting? I mean,
It sounds great. We're doing a lot of that.
Are you?
Yes. The one thing that I would like to improve on is the community involvement. We've been involved in a community transportation planning grant, which also allows us to plan for economic development and growth. And get into land planning. And we have, put stronger restrictions on developers to require and incentivize things like, in order to get a development approved, you may have to add to a park or create a sidewalk, in an area, things like that. But that's things that I think the community largely does not know at this point, and I think that, where I know I can improve is getting, that message out to the community a little more about what we are doing and what we have done from a planning standpoint. But our planning commission, I know over the last 3 or 4 years has been very busy looking at new ways to better share the cost burden of development. And I do think that it would be worth our while to look at that charter change that would allow impact fees. Because it's not just water and sewer or the things that we've talked about. It gets into schools and everything else, and tends to cost more money.
So we got 3 schools on this end of the county. I say within another 4 years, we're gonna have 5. We're gonna have 4. We'll have another one set behind the middle school and the elementary school up here.
And what's that going to do? Because it's
Well, it's gonna be
elementary, middle.
more, it's gonna be more water. It won't be on cost to us.
No, I mean, it's elementary, middle, and high school, but what's going to be behind
They're
there?
gonna split up, take a middle school out of this school and put it back here.
So it's going to be 2 middle schools?
No, it'll be 1 middle school. We got an intermediate and a middle
Oh,
now.
okay.
The intermediate, the middle and the high schools are here now. And we got an intermediate and a grade school
Oh,
down here.
okay,
So
okay.
I say in the next 4 or 5 years, there'll be another one sitting down there. It's gonna have to, because they
Yeah, because
outgrow, they ain't got
there are people
enough,
coming in,
they
yeah.
ain't got enough chairs in there now for it.
Yeah.
I'm saying next 3 or 4 years it's coming. And that way, the biggest link on the water sewer rates is gonna go up, it's gonna tear Marshall County up. I haven't heard a word from you. We'll let it be sent out to them. Will they adjust their budget or not yet? I don't know.
The county.
Right, Marshall County School System. I don't know whether they've adjusted their budget yet or not, because I know it's gonna tear them up. Because they're the biggest water users we've got here in town.
Just for the school.
There's 3 schools, that's right. I'd almost bet 3 schools use more water than everybody else in town.
Well, yeah, that certainly makes sense. Yeah, I wouldn't,
Because the commode flush about every 15 seconds.
well, yeah. We don't do that.
Yeah, old people too.
People, Jackie.
But the city's fixing to grow, and
Yeah.
like I said earlier, I'd rather us go and take care of the problem ourselves now. I never did like the state of Tennessee or anybody come there and shove nothing down my throat.
Well, and it's just a shame we haven't kept up.
Right, I understand that. I
But you know,
understand.
that's hindsight. What are you gonna do now? I mean,
Hindsight's
it
20/20,
had-
it's
you know,
right.
Raise your water bill $50 a month.
Well,
I said, the hindsight, what they gonna do about it? They gonna raise your water bill.
yeah, but it is. If it would have been done incrementally over these years, you wouldn't have felt it as bad as you're gonna be feeling, as I'm gonna be feeling.
Now, how many gallons of water do you use a day? I mean, a month, Rick?
I wish
Our
I
bill's
would.
around 4,000.
4,000.
Yeah.
How much 4,000?
We don't have it covered in school.
It's probably gonna be about, $30, $40 increase.
$30, $40.
Yeah, that's what I'm figuring.
I use more than you do. Mine's probably gonna go to 50.
Have you considered the many senior citizens that live in this community
Yes,
that are surviving off Social Security?
Yes, sir. I draw Social Security myself.
Yes, and well, you have a job too.
Well, I had to.
Well, these people don't, and this is gonna impact them heavily.
Well, some of them are not.
Nothing, I mean.
Maybe I don't want to be out of
everybody's
place when a lot of this conversation, what they need to be with the mayor and the aldermen, don't you agree?
Right, I do.
And it's just
gonna
like-
affect the water board, it's gonna have another meeting this minute, it's all gonna come up again, and we'll bring the rest of it up then.
The time's already up right now, so I'm gonna make a motion to go ahead and adjourn this meeting so we can get the other one started.
What's the other meeting that you have?
It's the primary meeting. You came to one that was preceding the primary meeting.
It's gonna be the three meetings.
Well, we need to meet.
Huh?